Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this each week. I really appreciate you. I know that you're busy. I know that there are so many demands for your time. So I just wanted to say thank you. And thank you for those that are so kind and send me sweet DMs and emails and love notes, even in the mail, telling me that you listen and how much you are enjoying these conversations. I love that. I love that we're friends. It's all so good. And today's episode is with a relatively new friend, Lindsey McMillion Stemann. And she's just a delight. I met her through a networking group with Nicole Khalil, whom we've had here on the podcast. And then she recently joined the mastermind I'm in with my mentor, Gina DeVee. So I'm super excited to be with her in this beautiful container of growth and expansion and traveling the world and all those fun things. So let me tell you a little bit about Lindsey. She is the founder of McMillion Consulting. She is a global speaker and coach to top producers, a LinkedIn credibility consultant. Lindsey is known as LinkedIn Lindsey, and she empowers successful professionals to take charge of their online reputation to increase their revenue. Now, I know that bio does not sound like the types of conversations that I'm usually having. She is a powerhouse and she is a queen and she is all things strategy and LinkedIn goodness. And for sure, she knows that my LinkedIn profile is an eye roll. And just like you, there's so much more to her than what she does for work. And she is just such a beautiful soul. And we had such a gorgeous conversation that was really special. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. My sweet Lindsey, I'm so happy to see your beautiful face. Thank you for being here today.
I wouldn't be anywhere else, Wendy. I'm so happy that we're finally getting to do this. You know, we became such fast friends. And even though it's been a short time, I feel like this has been a long time coming all at the same time.
I agree. And yes, just to catch our listeners up, Lindsey and I met in a networking group with Nicole Khalil, and we had a call and we were exchanging DMs and all of those good things. But then we had the opportunity to meet in person in New Orleans. And that was so great because I felt like I already knew you. And then now it feels like we've been friends forever.
It really does.
It's so good. Hooray. Well, I'm just going to start us off with the question I ask everyone when I remember, which is, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
Oh gosh, I'm glad you add in this season because, you know, if you said today, I would have been like, well, before we hopped on the call, I had a Reese's peanut butter cup and it was fabulous.
Ooh, excellent choice.
But no, in this season, I am in this space of learning to rewire my brain. So I have recently gone through a pretty hellish storm of a season, and by God's grace, I'm on the other side of it. And I am really spending time every morning. So I already had a quiet time ritual, but I knew that one of the pieces of my morning routine that was missing, and I didn't really know what to do about it or how to go about fixing it or tweaking it or adding it, was guided meditation.
Mm.
And so just in a few short weeks, every morning I've added a guided meditation sequence to my quiet time. And it is literally rewiring my brain. One of my goals and I say goal, but it's really just now a lifetime pursuit, because I really didn't realize how much I needed this, is to learn how to believe that I'm worthy and that
Mm.
I have this self-love. And and I think externally, people who are my friends or people who don't know me think I'm a very confident person, and I am confident. There's a lot of things in my life that are massive blessings that give me that confidence and that peace. And yet, in this storm that I've just recently gone through, when your husband says to you, you really need to learn how to love yourself. Ugh,
Mm.
it's just like a shot to the heart. And then the day after, your therapist says to you, I really want you to start paying attention to how you talk to yourself.
Mm.
And when I was given that prompt, Wendy, what I realized very quickly, it wasn't something that took a real, weeks to identify, was that the beliefs I have about myself, I should say had in the past tense, because the
Good.
rewiring is working.
Very good.
The beliefs I had about myself were so deeply ingrained in me that I didn't even hear myself talk to myself and about myself, because these things were just to be true. These were just beliefs about who I was as a person. And, you go through traumatic experiences, and you put in the hard work and the healing, and God starts revealing all these things to you. And what one of many things that was revealed is just this belief I have had and carried for most of my life, of feeling unworthy, unlovable. And man, just saying that out loud just feels so icky and
Right.
not who I am and not who you know me to be. And so I'm not afraid to say it now, because I know that I also am not the only one who struggles with this.
Absolutely.
So I shared this with you earlier. My prayer is just that anytime I am fortunate to be on a podcast with someone amazing like yourself, that
Oh.
one of your listeners hears this, and it gives them some hope, and can impact and influence them in a positive way. And so these guided meditations, Wendy, have started putting words into my soul that I didn't
Mm.
have for myself.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that.
Thank you.
It's amazing how a belief is just a thought we keep thinking over and over again. And so when we change our thoughts, we change our beliefs. And
Yes.
when those beliefs are about ourselves, they of course impact everything when that
Everything.
changes. And I love that you received that 1-2 punch right after each other, just so that you didn't allow yourself to discount the the beautiful invitation that those two remarks were, and that you were courageous and decided to take a step toward that, because it's also very easy to stay in the quote unquote comfort zone, which
Right.
is anything but comfortable.
Right.
It
Isn't
is,
it so
right?
ironic?
I don't know why it's called that, but it is familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes familiar feels safer.
Absolutely. but it doesn't mean it's what's best for us. And sometimes we don't even know what we're missing out on, right? Like
sure.
I didn't even realize that I had these deep-seated beliefs about myself until those prompts, were given to me, and until I experienced this light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, like I don't even say these things. They're just in me, right? They're just a part of the mold. And how fortunate that they don't have to be, right? Just because they've been a part of the mold, they can be chipped out, right? And filled in with something new. What are those? Oh gosh, I'm such a visual person. It's where the pot is broken and then it has a specific name and then it's glued back together with gold.
Right. The Japanese.
Yes.
Right.
I know. It's
I
so
can't think of the
beautiful.
word. It will
Okay,
come
well,
to
we'll put it,
us.
I'll let you
Yes.
research it and put it in the show notes, but
Yes.
it's
Because
just this.
I confuse it with the ikigai, which is where like what you love and what the world needs and all those things come together. But
Yes,
that's not what
yes.
it's called, but it's the
No,
other
no, no.
Japanese
So,
word.
but I think there's that visual, right, of the
Yes.
cracked pot and then being glued together back with gold. And so like I know that, God's desire for me is to feel whole. And so it's what's been so amazing about guided meditation is that it's working. It's working, and I'm noticing it in big and small ways, which to me, even the small ways are big because I wouldn't have had these wins and experiences had I not, had this new discipline. I So a couple of things I'd love to share if I can.
Yes, I have lots
Yes.
of questions
Okay,
and you
great.
sharing may just answer them.
Okay, beautiful. So I was doing a guided meditation, and what I've also realized, so that I'm totally leaning into embracing this new experience because what I've recently identified is, oh, you know what? During the weekdays, I found myself sometimes struggling with, well, I'm focusing on personal stuff. Well, I'm focusing on business stuff. And then sometimes my meditation just gets all mushy and I still feel great afterward, but I feel like I could just refine what I'm focusing on. So what I've decided, and I'd be curious if you have an approach on this, is during the weekdays, I do want to focus on business stuff. And on the weekends, I'll still do my meditations, but I'll focus on personal stuff, whether it's health or family or what have you. And so anyways, this was a Monday morning, and I happened to be focusing and meditating over a business meeting I was having that day. And whenever I do guided meditation, and again, this is a new topic for me, so I'd love to get your input. I have found myself incorporating and really talking to God through my time. And I said, Lord, with this opportunity, if you could just give me this, which was is for an opportunity to speak at a really prestigious event, which was a specific speaker fee and a comp registration and my expenses paid, like that would be amazing. And then I went through the rest of my meditation. Wendy, I had this phone call, and I kid you not, I didn't even have to bring it up. And if anyone who is a speaker or is in sales, usually you have to be the one to bring up the budget or, like be in the driver's seat. I didn't even have to bring it up. The prospect, who that same day became a client, offered me exactly what I had just meditated on an hour and a half earlier. Exactly, to the T. I didn't have to ask for it. I didn't have to bring it up. I didn't have to. There was two women on the call. She offered it. And when I tell you my mouth hit the floor and my insides were doing cartwheels and jumping, and I was like, I'm like, God, you are showing off right now, and I will take it. Thank you.
He's always there, just waiting. And I lovingly invite you to remove the word just from your next request.
Yes, I love that.
Because I've been in the practice of removing that from my language because it discounts what I'm about to say.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say that, no.
Yes.
I have something to say.
Yes.
And this is what it is. And we we're not fresh, we're not spoiled children telling God, demanding that God give us the lollipop and the bubble gum. It's not that. It's thank you for giving me these gifts. Thank you for this opportunity on the phone today. This is my desire.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I love that you mentioned that. I've heard that that advice before of removing just, and it was in the context of prospecting calls when you're selling and bringing in new business. And so I actually feel like I have it down pretty well in that sphere and kind of realm. So thank you for reminding me to incorporate that into kind of these more personal sides of my life. And I want to tell you another quick one. This just happened this
Please.
morning. I got some news this morning about a team member that just is no longer able to take on the work that we've been doing together. And so, the old version of me would have freaked out. And admittedly, when I first read the couple of sentences, I thought, man, that's a huge bummer because now I'm down to one person and I really need a team of at least 3. But within 60 seconds, within that same minute, I was able to say, you know what? It's all good. There are so many people out there who have this skill set. And I know so many people who know so many people that have that skill set. Within 1 hour, I had the conversation with the person who shared the news with me. And she was able to say, oh my gosh, I actually have a couple of people I can send your way. And then I planted 2 more seeds. And I literally have 10 people who I now have an opportunity to follow up with. And so it was just the word that kept coming, abundance, abundance,
That's
abundance.
right. That's right.
Amazing.
It's all here for us. And I think that one of the practices is to stop, slow down long enough, sit in stillness, bring your presence into the presence of God, and just sit and receive. It is all here for us. And when we ask, it is instantly given. The distance between it coming into our physical experience is the art of allowing. And how can we get out of our resistance to receiving the gift that is here for us? So when you hear news like that, when, like you said, the old version of you would have started freaking out, all that does is just build up more resistance to getting the answer. And when we can sit back and remember, this might be new information to us, but God is not shocked by this, and a solution exists that is going to be a blessing and a benefit to everyone involved, including the person that needed to move on to her other contracted work, including the new team member or 2 that are going to come on, and the places you're going to be able to go with this new support system, and the people in earshot of you telling the story. It's just the ripple effects of this goodness only happen when we take a beat and sit in stillness.
Yes, it's so true.
One of the questions I have for you, I have 2 questions. I would love to know what meditation you're using and how you chose it. And then the second question is, what are one of the affirmations that you've been able to use to replace what your old narrative was?
Oh, these are great questions. So the first question regarding what modalities, what am I using for guided meditation is, for 1 month, I used Joe Dispenza's morning meditation, which has been so interesting, so unique, so different.
He is very different.
Yes, but it's my first crack at it, and he came highly recommended from many people, including yourself. And it's kind of one of those things where let's just give this a go and be open to the possibility. And so now, being in a different month, I am now on to the Generating Abundance, Joe Dispenza meditation. And admittedly, Wendy, and this is where I go back to what I mentioned earlier about leaning into this new experience and skill set. I didn't love it the first time I sat through it. I thought he is shouting, he's kind of shouty, and this just is, I am just not digging this, but I acknowledged those feelings. And the next morning, which happened to be a Tuesday, actually of this week, I said, I'm going to give this a go because I've only done it once and I don't have enough information and experiences and at bats yet to really give it a fair decision if this is right for me or not. And I will tell you that I sat through my second round of Generating Abundance meditation in the morning, and I left that meditation electrified. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, bring it on. Let's conquer the day. And I had come out of the previous day really having a difficult mental day. And thankfully, God's mercies are new every day. And so, not even 24 hours later, I am just feeling on fire for life and just the opportunities out there that exist for me and my family and my team and people who I haven't even met yet to receive. So
I love that. I have another question off of that before you tell me your affirmations.
Absolutely.
When do we know? Because so sometimes we do something and we're, no, that's a hard no. This is not for me. That does not feel good in my body. Like, I'm just trying to, and I'm asking this really out of curiosity, because there are things that I'm find myself introduced to, or I'm going to try something new. And I know that in some new things that we're trying, there is a learning curve. There is a trial period. There is I put my France trips out there and it didn't break the internet with them all signing up the first day. So I'm clearly not supposed to go to France. Well, that I can hardly even let those words fall out of my mouth. That's ridiculous. Some things need time before we evaluate and all of those things. And then, like I said, sometimes we encounter something that we just know absolutely not. This particular thing is not for me. And obviously not meditation as a whole, because of one meditation that you listen to, go to the next one. So how do you know when something needs a bit of an on-ramp and when you can trust yourself that your no is no?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So a few things come to mind. One is I'm heavily influenced by people I trust and people who are in my sphere in my life. And so we'll just use the example of meditation for now. In that example of having an kind of off day and not really loving that, I thought, I'm new to this. This is a skill that I haven't quite actually developed yet. I don't have like the muscle memory. So to just write this off as not a good fit felt like I was not actually giving myself the opportunity to experience the potential that it could have on me. And knowing that, again, this person, Joe Dispenza, came highly recommended through people I respect. I take all those little data points to let that inform my decision of continuing the process. And like I said earlier, I had already seen such quick wins and benefits that those were helpful reinforcers as well. Now, when does it make sense, or when are there times when it's a hard no? I'll give you an example, and I'm taking it back to high school, Wendy.
Ooh,
so
I love those stories.
I've grown up an athlete. So I, very young. Well, it's funny. I very, very young did gymnastics, and I'm probably the only kid in the world that was terrified of the trampoline. For whatever reason, I was the kid that thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to break my neck when I do that flip on the trampoline. Like how, just again, these stories we tell ourselves. So did a short-lived career in gymnastics, but then I did softball, and then we moved to the Carolinas when I was in fourth grade, and everyone played soccer. So I started playing soccer. That became my sport. And then in high school, my parents were like, you're so good at soccer and we do this year round and yada, yada. What about swim team? So I thought, yeah, I mean, why not? Right. I'm an athlete. I can do it. And kids are resilient. So I'm in high school. I had just got my driver's license. So I'm a sophomore at this point. And and we had 3 weeks of dry land training. So dry land training is, long distance running and weightlifting and I'm crushing it. I'm getting like first place every time. I'm super competitive. I'm crushing dry land training for those 3 weeks. So dry land training's up, you're building up your strength, your endurance, and then we have our first day in the pool. And just to give you a little context, I have never been on swim team. My dad taught me how to swim as a little girl at the beach. All of my friends, I mean, I can't think of a single friend in the Carolinas that I was friends with that wasn't on swim team. There were actually no tryouts for our swim team in high school. It was just kind of like based on your effort, and if you swam well enough, then you got put in the pool, I guess. Well, that was my understanding of it. So I'm thinking, oh yeah, I am going to crush this swimming thing because I am so good at dry land training. Wendy, are you a swimmer?
No.
Okay.
You have to, does your hair get wet when you do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Well,
have to
not
do
if
that.
not if you're like me and you go all in. Well, I say me, my parents very generously bought me all the swim team gear. I had the warm up, I had the swim cap, I had the swimsuit. I mean, I was decked out to the nines with all my swim gear. First day in the pool, just to practice. I don't even actually remember what the number is. So if you're a swimmer and you're listening to this, I might be completely off base, or you might be just getting a great laugh out of this story. But I want to say the coach, great guy, he was like, all right, 50 laps warm up. I mean, I don't know, it could have been 5, but to me, it was just like an astronomical number. I get in the pool, I swim down one length, I turn around because like I don't know how to like do the flippy thing.
Sure.
I swim down the other length. I get out of the pool. I sit on the bleachers and I start putting my clothes on, drying off. And he's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm not, I quit swim team.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm sorry, what? You quit swim team? I was like, coach, I don't know how to swim. I was like, I literally, I don't know how to swim. Like I could barely make it down and back from the pool in one lap. And you want us to do like 52 of these things. Like I'm done, I'm out. And thankfully, I can drive at this point. So, he could see there was no turning back, right? I'm
Right.
like, coach, you would actually have to teach me how to swim. And everyone here has been swimming since they're 3. I don't know how to swim. This is just like a lost cause. We're done. So I go home. My parents are like, thought it was swim practice. Why are you home so early? I was like, oh, quit swim team. They're like, you quit swim team, but you were killing it in dry land training. I'm like, I know. Well, apparently being on the ground, feet on the ground and in the pool are 2 different things. I actually don't know how to swim. They're like, oh, yeah, I guess that's a skill you kind of got to have if you're going to do swim team. So that was just like such a defining, clear moment as this 16-year-old kid realizing it's a no-go. And I felt totally at peace and with the decision and confident in that decision.
I
So
love that so much. And I love how it has stuck with you because it is a pivotal moment. And there is something about certainty that there's no, it's not a conversation. Like
yep.
I have made a decision.
Yes.
Anyone's welcome to have an opinion and they can go have that in the privacy of their own home, but I'm not available.
That's right.
To have the conversation about this.
And Wendy, I knew I was going to hold my team back. I mean, there were implications for me choosing to stay on the team that weren't a benefit to anybody, including myself, right? So
it wasn't because you got in a fight with that girl and if she's in the pool, you're not in the pool. I mean, there's certainty around that as well, but that's silly. Has nothing to do with swimming. This had 100% everything to do with swimming.
Yes. So
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think they're just experiences we have in life that, you think it's one thing, you do it, and it's something totally different. And you're like, yeah, not for me, not going to do that again. And at least I tried it, so
that's the key.
Yeah.
That is the key. We cannot steer a parked car.
That's
So
right.
we can have all of these ideas, whether it's for businesses or things we want for our family or things we want for ourselves in any area, but sitting around talking about it is not how you move forward. It's like you have to try this and then, oh, does that work? Yes. Okay, great. We'll try it again. Was it fun? Great. Let's do that. Let's do for more people. Okay, let's try that. Try this. Didn't work. Thank you. No, not doing that. And you just get the next breadcrumb to find the path that you go on.
Wendy, it sounds like you're describing entrepreneurship.
That is correct, ma'am.
Yes.
Which is so funny when you said that you meditate, on personal things on the weekends and then business related on the weekdays. And I have, I don't know what word to say. I don't want to say trouble or a problem. I have an awareness that I don't see a separation because
Sure.
I am my business. My business is me, and it's at my house, and it is my house, and it so that's really interesting. I haven't thought
Well,
about how that is separated.
and I'll report back, right? Like, I don't
Okay.
even know if that's a good approach or not. It might not work. And I think life happens too, right? So even if it's a Tuesday, if there's something wild going on in my personal life that needs
Totally.
attention, then we'll give that priority. So yeah, so it's just an approach I'm going to test out for a couple weeks and just see if that gives me, the intention in my thought process in taking that approach is just to have more focus with how I'm and what I'm meditating on. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm excited to watch.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
good. And then back to my other question of what is one of the affirmations that you're using to create a new narrative for yourself?
Yeah, I don't think that 5 months ago I would have been able to answer that question. Thankfully, we're having the conversation now, and we
Love
are.
it.
And one of the statements that I wrote that has a longer version, but the short version that I've committed to memory is that I am worthy of an honest and joy-filled life.
Mm.
And because I
Yes, you
am,
are.
you
Yes, you
know,
are.
yeah, I'm worthy of that. And on the days, it's interesting, mantras and things like this, I found myself thinking it and saying it to myself, even when I'm not in a moment, I'm
Hmm.
just wiping down the counters and it just kind of like floats into my little brain.
I
And I'm
love
like,
it.
oh, I kind of like this. This is so
Yes.
lovely. I'll take that. I'll receive that,
Right.
So just keeping that simple of I'm worthy of an honest and joy-filled life, really just keeps me grounded and rooted in, God's desire for my life and just the abundance in front of me.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I also wanted to mention one of your big yeses because I saw it on Instagram the other day, your snowboard
Oh
that
my
has a
gosh.
giant yes on it. And I was
I
so
know.
excited. I
Thank
feel
you.
like that's the picture we should use
Oh my
when
gosh.
when we were
Yes.
promoting this episode. But say more about that. That is so fun that you can have such a fabulous piece of equipment that also is an extension of you and an affirmation in itself.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you brought this up because for so many reasons, that snowboard was made for me. So I was, a below average skier. I'm born on the East Coast, have lived on the East Coast my whole life, which, if you know anything about skiing or snowboarding, the conditions are horrendous for that sport. And when I finally had the opportunity, only about 6 or 7 years ago, to go out west to ski, I thought, whoa, this is like it's a totally different experience.
Okay.
Now, that said, I still had a lot of fear around just the lack of control I felt when I was on skis. And as it happens, I ended up tearing my ACL skiing in 2018. Thankfully, it was non-surgical. I did a ton of PT. It scarred down. I'm healthy, good to go. And in 2021, my husband, by the way, is an avid skier. So he grew up skiing, and it's just a piece of his life that he, as you know, an established adult, wanted to bring back in and have more freedom and to do more often throughout the year. And I want to be a part of it because I love being outside. And I am strong, I am capable, but I had a choice, and there's been several iterations of this over the last few years. But in 2021, I decided, I'm going to give snowboarding a try. And I had snowboarded maybe 2 or 3 times on the East Coast and was about as good at it as I was at skiing, which wasn't that great. And so I was fortunate. My husband and I packed up the dog. So we don't have any children yet, but we packed up our little fur kid, Tater Todd, and we drove 30 hours out west to Park City, Utah, and lived there for 5 weeks. And
fun.
at the time, I was working with several clients who happened to be in Utah. And so one of them, before becoming a financial advisor and owning his own boutique practice, he was for 18 or 19 years a snowboard instructor.
Oh,
He said,
cool.
Lindsey, I'll come out to Park City and I'll spend the day with you. He's like, but we have to keep it under wraps because we can't look like we're giving lessons because we'll get in trouble. So I was like, good, cool. So he just so generously gave me his entire day and just helped me with the basics and build my confidence. Fast forward to, 3 years later, here I am in my 4th snowboard season. And by the way, I've been borrowing my sweet friend here in Greenville. I've been borrowing her board every time I go out. And, my husband said to me this year, he said, or I guess a few months ago, he's like, I think it's time to buy your own snowboard. And, it's kind of one of those things where, it felt like a big commitment. Like, oh, I'm saying yes to this. Like, this is now like I'm a snowboarder, like I'm not just going out. I'm not just like borrowing the friend's snowboard that's 20 years old. I'm like I'm one of those cool chicks,
You are.
And so so this is so great. He actually found that snowboard for me, and it's funny because my husband has for years picked on me and given me a hard time. He's like, Lindsey, he's like, you're never an or person. You're always an and. Everything's an and. And I'm like, absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't life be an and, And then I met
100%.
you, right? And then I met you, Wendy, and several other mutual friends of ours. And I finally got, not finally, but got permission to be an and woman. And
Yes.
when I think of the word and, I also think of the word yes. So, I had to give him a hard time when I said, yeah, this is totally my board, babe. I said, and you notice when it says on the front and in massive letters on the back bottom of the board, yes. He goes, I know, it's kind of like and because you're an and girl. I'm like, yeah, I know, right? So I got this beautiful snowboard and putting it to use in a couple of weeks, and it's just going to be a blast. And yeah, it was a yes that I was worthy of.
I'm so happy.
Thank you.
Yay. I love
Thank you.
that. And I love that just like the other affirmations just come in when you're wiping down the kitchen counter, that every time you look down, you're going to see that big yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Thank you
so
so much,
good.
Wendy.
Oh
Yeah.
my
And how
gosh.
beautiful that the name of your podcast. I mean, it was all very, very on purpose by
It's
design.
as if there's a master plan.
I mean, who would have
I
thought?
know. Why do we worry?
I
Why do
know
we
it.
worry about anything?
I know.
Oh my
Speaking of
goodness.
that, I want to share one thing that I recently heard.
Please.
I've found over the years that um, if I'm struggling with making a decision or knowing what the next right step is, I'll pray for clarity. Lord, just give me wisdom, give me clarity, and I'll always use that word. I recently heard. So, have you ever watched The Chosen?
No, but
Okay.
it's been
Heard of it.
recommended.
Yes.
Mhm.
So The Chosen, so the main character, who plays Jesus, his name is Jonathan in real life, and they did a docu-series on, it's called Jonathan and Jesus. And the last episode, don't worry, I'm not giving any spoilers. The last
Well, it's
episode,
about Jesus, so
well, it's about Jesus,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
we've
yeah.
already. I read the book. It's all right.
Yes, there you go. So in the docu-series though, called Jonathan and Jesus, somebody mentions a quote from Mother Teresa, that someone came up to Mother Teresa and said, Mother Teresa, will you just please pray for clarity for me? And she said, I will not pray for clarity for you.
Oh.
I'll pray for your trust.
Mm.
And wow, that just like,
Yeah.
just this idea. So I'm going into this year with my word being surrender. And layered in the word of surrender is trust. And that does not come naturally to me.
And choosing that word is no joke, Queen.
Yeah.
It is no joke.
It isn't. And it's also just being able to have this posture of open-handedness and trust and surrender, and that I don't always have to have clarity to move through the day or to move through the next right step.
Right. And in some cases, we're asking for clarity when we already know.
For sure. For sure.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. Gosh, I don't even know what to say after that. So I'll just thank you for this beautiful time today.
Oh, it's so lovely.
Would you please let people know how they can find you, how they can follow you? Tell us a little bit about yourself, sweet Lindsey.
Sure. So I have owned my own consulting business for, well, I guess we'll just say since 2016. Yet I've been doing what I've been doing for over a decade. And that is, I'm a professional speaker. And I also like to say that I'm a LinkedIn credibility consultant. And so what that means is really helping our clients who are professionals, usually business owners and leaders in their field, make sure that the reputation they have offline in their space, in their industry, amongst their peers, clients, prospects, is really reflected and mirrored online, specifically through their LinkedIn profile. So we have a 5-step trademark process that we take clients through, where we interview them and write and design their profile. And it's a done for you experience. Because, at the end of the day, our LinkedIn profiles are another digital footprint, right? And they're another website, and people don't actually have to have a LinkedIn account to see your LinkedIn profile because it's public. So we love that work that we get to do with clients and bringing their story to life and their voice to life. And then, I get to do a lot of speaking around the country, and it's a blast. So you can obviously find me on LinkedIn. And then I am on Instagram. It's pretty easy. My handle is LinkedIn Lindsey, Lindsey. So you can find me there too.
Perfect. And we will link everything in the show notes.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you so much, my friend. This was beautiful. I really enjoy time with you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. It was just so much fun. And I can't wait to get feedback from your listeners and hear what they're doing with meditation and how they're just getting in that vibe of believing their worthiness as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, my friend. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site, or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.